who helps her with boards and commissions and then other day-to-day operations of the office. And then she also has access to a receptionist who helps her with the phones and to greet customers. Now, I also contacted the city of Rockport, and the Rockport has 2 staff people in the office. They have a city secretary and an assistant city secretary. So, you know, we're hoping that we can get an additional staff person. It would be a part-time person, so there would be no benefits. The cost would be approximately about $15,000. And then the other staff request we're submitting is per diem for the city attorney. So if you know, those are the only 2 requests that we're submitting. One of there was a project that we started this year, and that was an imaging program in the city secretary's office, and that has added, it has increased the workload. So in order, I mean, and it's still a work in progress. We're hoping, or at least I'm hoping, to finish it within the next maybe 2 or 3 months, at least the database, and then make it available to departments that would benefit from accessing the records. I've gone back and I've back scanned ordinances and resolutions to 2015, and then as far as contracts, I've gone back even further. And what I'm in the process of doing now is going in there and adding expiration dates. And the purpose for the expiration dates is to be able to print reports so that we can identify those contracts that are expired so that they can be renewed before they expire. So, but like I said, that is a work in progress. So, you know, in consideration to these requests would be. Any questions?
No, but I would like to tell Ram and Carrie, both Vicki and I always meet with her quarterly, and this new system, she doesn't tell you how it's going to be great, because we're not going to miss expiration dates on contracts. We're not going to miss the bond issue or and all the important papers that we need for contracts and stuff like that. It'll be all there before we can get a file. It's very beneficial to the city.
Yeah. I guess after our meeting, the administrative committee asked me to go back and also put expiration dates on conditional use permits.
Oh,
So
yeah, that's very important.
So that's something that we're going to be working on too.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, Mary.
okay.
You've got a load.
Okay.
Yes, she does.
Yeah.
Good morning, Mayor and council members. My requests are very short and simple, but expensive. The personnel in the municipal court is myself as the presiding judge and a certified level 2 court clerk, Milagros Medina, and court clerk Matea Jimenez. When I prepared this, we had the court closed, but then we got the plan for opening approved by the Supreme Court, and so we ran with it. I had met with the mayor about 3 weeks ago, and our opening date was not until July 1st. But when I contacted the local health authority, and she also approved our plan, and then we ran with it, submitted to the Supreme Court, and it was approved. And so yesterday was our first day to open, and we're real excited. Only the first, I call it the entrance because we're still housed at the Civic Center, and only the entrance is open. Once we start court, I call it phase 1, phase 2, then we're going to hold court, but that's another phase that also has been approved. But you know, we go into the temperature, the hand sanitizer. The hand sanitizer is still available there at the windows, and but anyway, we're real excited just to start off with phase 1 instead of waiting until July 1st. My 2 requests is, my first one is going paperless. And, you know, we understand that it's not going to happen overnight. It will take some time. And they call it paper light when we started. And the benefits of going paperless, it's going to increase the efficiency, no more lost files, misfiled documents, duplicate of documents, or wasted time. It will be managed electronic documents instead of stack of papers. Enhance security and control. Keep sensitive documents from unauthorized access through authorization within ENCODE. Allow our court staff to work from home, where an actual file will not have to leave the office, which is not recommended because of the personal information. And that was something that we experienced with this COVID-19. We were not able to work from home. We reported to work every day, and we've been answering phones, emails, fax. We've been communicating with the people, but my point is that other departments were able to work from home, we were not able to. And then going paperless, all the files would be in the system to give us an opportunity to work from home. And the last one is use less office space, reduce file cabinets, stack with boxes and piles of paper. Right now we're experiencing shortage of room. As y'all can see, we have a door right there that took a wall away, and we have 7 huge filing cabinets, and we've been brainstorming. I sought for Fernando's expertise as to where we can put these files. We have 3 files at the blue, I think they call it the blue building, where the shrimpery is, and we need to bring them back because of the shrimpery. They use that facility, so we need to bring them back. I don't know how soon we're going to get the flooring. I know that we had a big hole in the roof because they're working on the roof, and we just need to make sure that these filing cabinets are secured, and so we need to find a place to put them. In the meantime, we were able to take 4 of our filing cabinets with us to the Civic Center. And then, Sarah has been very gracious in allowing us to use her facility, but she didn't have any room for us to put those 3, so we have them over there. For work, open records requests, they have to go over there and look for the files. Then we were told that they were covered with mud, and so we had to go over there and check them out and make sure that everything's okay. So we're anxious to get it back. So the benefit of it is having, this opportunity to go paperless, and it's going to benefit us in the future. Also, I checked to see if we had enough monies in technology fund, because that's where I was hoping to get the money and not have to get anything from the general fund, but I don't have enough. And I have to leave enough money to cover for our other expenses that, the licenses, the usage of the technology, the merging with process with the police department. So I have to make sure I have enough money to cover that for our annual fee. And then the last, the more certifications that our court clerks get, it's more knowledge, more information that they're able to give to the community, to the citizens, to the public. And I know that Millie is now striving to get to level 3, and right now as level 2, she is with the same level as the court administrator in Corpus. And Corpus is a bigger municipality, and she is at the same level. So she's striving for level 3. Matea is working on level 1, and level 1 is the first step, and it's a 400-page manual that they study, and so they might not pass it the first time, but at least they know more or less what to expect on the second time. So I asked, because it's very well deserved for them going out there and trying to achieve this, and also its integrity for our court. Any questions?
What would you consider the raise for these girls?
$1.
$1 per hour?
Yes, ma'am.
It wasn't on there, so that was my question too.
And I would normally ask what they're making, but it's public, so I don't think that should be asked.
That was my question as well.
So, how long do you think, if you got this new technology, that it would take to input all these files?
That's a good question, because what I have planned is we would start like whatever it goes on today, and then start working back. I'm hoping that it would take about a year, hopefully less. We're really anxious to get this going, and it's for the future of the court, and I might not be around, but at least get that going, and I think it would benefit the court.
Thank you.
Any questions?
No?
No?
Did you have that?
Thank you.
No? Be careful on your way to San Antonio.
Thank you.
Yes.
I just hope we don't get any rain.
Rain, yeah. We need the rain, but we don't want to drive through the rain.
No, yes, correct. Y'all have a nice day.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Henry.
Billy's not, okay.
Okay.
Howdy, y'all. Good morning.
Howdy.
Howdy.
So one of these looks familiar. It's the door and building access security at the card swipe entry.
Mm-hmm.
We're taking another shot at that. It's a smaller number this year because it's just City Hall and Public Works. Those are the only two buildings that we've done. PD is going to be handling their own building. They all work together. They work with our current badge system, and we've talked about the benefits of that, the security, the just everything from preventing access to the wrong people to saving time, going around changing every single lock every time we terminate someone is very time consuming, and there's also some accountability, some logging of who comes and goes at what time, which is kind of, unfortunately, it's kind of nice to have that sometimes. So that's the door and building access security. It's not a lot of money compared to other budget items that you see, but it's gonna benefit everybody here. So that's important for us. The drone replacement. Oh, geez. 6 years ago, we implemented a sort of new thing for the communities around us, and that was to have a drone in the air for fires and for other things like that. We were kind of one of the first in the area to do it. And the drone we bought was a really nice, high-quality drone, but it's 5 years old. It's actually, at this point, costing more to maintain than to buy a new one. So it's my request that I get permission to surplus the old drone and replace it with the newer models that are a lot cheaper to maintain. So just for as an example, the full replacement battery, if I replaced all the batteries on our current drone, it would cost half the price of what the new whole system costs. So just the batteries alone, in 2 years, we've paid paid for it. You know what I mean? Replacing batteries. So we'd like to do that. Also, it's quicker to deploy as the technology has changed. It takes higher quality pictures, but it also is a lot faster to deploy. What the old drone would take probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes to get up and flying, maybe 5 minutes. The new one we can deploy in like 30 seconds. So we can arrive on scene, get the thing in the air, get it going very, very quickly. So that's one of the things, and that's a small number also. And then we have a stack of laptops that we keep in IT as handouts. We've used them. They made it through Harvey. They're also 5 years old. Everything we have is like 5 years old. It's time to replace it. So we just need to sort of refresh those. We've used them for training. COVID, they came in really handy for people that needed to work from home. In fact, they're all still checked out right now. So if somebody comes up to me, we have one left that we use for city council meetings and things like that. All the rest of them are checked out, and they're aging. So that's the other thing we're asking for. We're not asking for a lot this year because we know revenue is tight. You know, we've had a lot of crazy stuff going on, and we don't want to put any extra burden on things. We operate tight. The IT department here does a lot with a little, and I hope people recognize that. We save money. We've been cutting costs this year. We got rid of the live stream software we were paying for. The connection was almost $60 a month. We got rid of that cost completely by switching everything over to YouTube. We've saved on our fax numbers because we were using POTS line, hard lines for each fax machine in the city, and we've consolidated all those using an internet fax service. So each line in the past would cost in the range of $45 per month per line, and we're down to $10 per line per month. So we've saved a little bit there. But anyway, the IT department tries to save money and tries to be as cheap as possible while getting the job done. And I just wanted to make sure you guys were aware of that. So, any questions, comments, complaints?
Do we have any computers that need to be replaced in any of the offices, or?
Yes, that is part of our maintenance and operations.
Okay.
We replace the bottom 20%. That keeps us, again, with the 5 years, that's like the magic number for IT. Stuff just doesn't last like too much longer than that.
Okay.
So that's part of our maintenance and operations budget.
Okay.
So, good question. In the past, you've seen it here. We decided that it was not a project. It's a necessity. It was something that we have to do. So,
Okay.
so we moved that over to M&O.
Okay.
Good question. Anything else?
Jeff, the computers we have in our office don't have a camera, nor do they have a microphone.
Right.
And I know the laptops are in use now to cover that.
Yes, sir.
For COVID. And you pointed out in your office you have a little device that costs like 30 cents or something like that.
30 cents exactly is what I was going to.
But it's inexpensive and within reason.
150 each.
But is that something that would be in this budget is my question.
Yes, I put it in CapEx under maintenance and operations.
Okay.
We have a certain amount of money that we always put in our capital outlay, and that's for replacement parts. Things break. Excuse me, sir. Sorry about that. We always have, things break in IT, and we have to replace them. Or someone says, I need a new wireless keyboard and mouse because my other one, I spilled Coke on it or whatever. So we have things that we have to pretty regularly go purchase. They're usually small, one-off items. The web cameras would fall into that category, in my opinion, and I've taken that into consideration in the maintenance and operations.
Good.
They're hard to find right now.
I imagine so. Yeah.
Of course, when everyone in the world started working from home, Amazon and every other, Alibaba, all of the online sites where you can buy that stuff, became very, very difficult to find them. And the ones that you could find, the prices, they did price gouging type stuff.
Mhm.
The prices went from, you used to be able to get one of these for $50, and now they're like $300 or $400.
Yeah.
And that's gross. That kind of stuff makes me sick. So. We can use strings and cups for a while.
There you go.
There you go.
Smoke signals.
Smoke signals. Any other questions, comments, anything?
No, but thank you.
Thank you for
the
your
job that
time. I
you do.
appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Before we go to the next one, just a third of anything with the camera, I think we're covering up the camera right here. Just a second. There we are.
Oh, well, oopsie.
Well, there went that budget. They don't get anything.
Yeah. Who's that?
Carrie's like,
Oops.
please, please.
The ones that make their presentation.
The camera back there is fine, but that one was not working.
Oh,
because
okay.
of this.
All right.
Sorry.
No, no problem. Ready to go?
We're ready.
Yeah,
Thank you. Good morning, Mayor, Council, Mary, Gary. Appreciate you guys listening to me this morning. I'll try to keep this as brief as I can. You have my slideshow. That's our mission and core values of the department there. Going to the next slide. I just want to show you, because this leads into some of what I'm going to be asking the council for this year. But our calls for service this last year, as you can see with me, we get about 28,600 plus calls. If you go to the next slide, you will see that the newly annexed areas that we did annex this past year, remember I told you that Aransas County had one animal control call there? Well, last year, they must really love us and not like them, I guess, or something, because we had 561 calls out in that annexed area. And that is an increase on call taking within dispatch. Now, when we came to you last year, I told you our dispatchers are already disadvantaged. Many times we only have one dispatcher in there, has to answer about 6 different total phone lines, radio frequencies altogether, while also monitoring the officers on the street, EMS and fire. So it's very crucial that we get them up to 2 dispatchers around the clock. Last year, I appreciate it, you guys gave me 1. This year, I'm hoping that we can get that second dispatcher. That would put us at 2 dispatchers around the clock. And that was one of the requests you'll see. Let's first, though, before we go to that, we'll go to the next slide, and you'll see some of our accomplishments. One of the biggest ones, of course, with training, we are the training leader in the Coastal Bend. There's no question about that. We provide probably even more training than Corpus Christi Police Department does. In fact, we train several of their officers regularly. You will see what's going on across the nation right now with race relations and stuff like that stirring up, kicking up. We've been on top of that for years ago. One of the things that's coming back to the forefront is implicit bias. Implicit bias is a bias you may have internally that you don't realize you have, but it kind of drives your life, it drives your decisions and stuff like that based on race. You may not realize that, but that could be something that is there. Well, we had the leading person who right now is going across the nation to some of these bad areas in the U.S., Dr. Del Carmen. He's been doing our racial profile auditing for the last several years. He's helped us craft policy. In fact, he provided implicit bias training just this past year before all this stuff blew up. We stay on top of that, and we want to continue to stay on top of that and bring that to our law enforcement around the area. If Corpus has a problem, that problem will bleed into Aransas Pass. So we believe in sharing it as widely as we possibly can, and we've lived by that. That's why we have a heavy training budget. Speaking of training, our Texas communicators, we provided the first that we know of in the state for a Texas communicators training, and it was a symposium that Lynn put together. We provided most all the instructors, and we brought in an instructor from the outside. and it was an incredible hit. We got wonderful feedback. This next year, we want to make it year 2 and make it even bigger and better. Going on more of the accomplishments, we got that dispatcher you guys gave us last year. She's in place, Kim Arrington. We implemented a first responder stipend. This was to kind of answer back to some of our surrounding agencies that were getting pay raises for officers. The crime board enacted a first responder stipend, which basically boosted our pay up for officers and sworn dispatchers about $5,000 a year. So we are very competitive now, not just being the best in training, and I believe the best in public service, but we are right up there and competitive with salary, so I'm not coming to you this year for salary. We've done some improvements on the jail. We're working on improvements still in the animal control. We need a new roof and stuff like that over there. That's already been funded. Dispatch, we have a remodel underway. You guys recently approved us to move forward. That's just waiting on the roof right now to be complete, but then we're going to have a new dispatch comms facility. And remember, we added a second SRO, and during COVID's crisis, we put officers on the boats in the water regularly. We had almost an around-the-clock presence, and I cannot tell you, I still hear today the overwhelming pleasure of our residents and the people that come here and visit on the water. We need to start looking in that direction of providing a regular on-the-water type patrol. And that is something I'm not bringing to you this year, but that is something I am looking towards the future on, maybe when we get a little more stabled off financially within the city. So what am I asking for this year? What are our goals or new goals? And I tried to keep this as simple as I can. One, I'd like to get that second dispatcher. We really need to have 2 around the clock. 2, I'd like to expand the emphasis on training and certification. Right now, I have some of the best field training officers in the business. They do not get properly rewarded for their field training endeavors, and I would like to give them, make that an incentive to where you're a certified trainer and you're providing that training in the department, you get a bump in pay, which comes out to about 50 cents an hour. If you approve that, that comes out to, with all my instructors, about $22,000 a year, and that's at a loaded rate. The third thing, and I would love to see this happen, is I would love for the council, or not the council, but the city to finally start paying for our fleet. Every year I need about 3 to 4.5 vehicles to keep my fleet from killing us on maintenance. Right now, we've been dependent so much on the drug fund and a little bit on the crime board. I'm really hoping that the city can pocket that at some point or another. If this year is not the year, I understand. I'm putting that bug in your ear because that is a very essential part of policing that we need to try to move over. As far as police, that's all I have for you right now. I want to mention, I know that some people are talking about going paperless and stuff like that. We've been working on doing paperless for the last several years, but we're doing it the hard way. We're like manually scanning and doing that. We are almost entirely paperless. In fact, my CID department is completely paperless at this point. And we've done that with the minimalization of buying other outside sources and stuff like that. But I also have the staff to do it, so I don't need the technology. But it is great being paperless. We submit all our cases and everything to the courts paperless as well. And they love it. We were the first in the area, and I strong-armed our prosecutors to accept it, and now all the other agencies around us are doing it. That's all I have for policing. If you have questions.
So the drug fund is drying up because you're doing such a great job.
The drug fund is drying
They're
up.
going
I
someplace
think,
else.
We're down to about 400,000 sitting in there. And when I came into this into the city, I had over 100,000, maybe just under 200,000. And I would like to keep that for a buffer because there are things
Rainy
that pop
day.
up, and we got to have that because I don't want to burden the city. So yes, it is. But I also, our guys just recently took down a big cartel member down in the valley. And so we're getting a command vehicle out of that, and we're getting a bunch of assets out of that as well. So the money's trickling in and stuff like that, but I don't want us to be exclusively dependent on that because where policing's going, TFOs may be cut off. We may lose this entirely, and then the city's going to have to make up that huge gap. And so I'm trying to transition some of the basic responsibilities of the fundamentals of policing over to the city, now to avoid that impact later on if that happens. So-
What is TFO? Transition Fleet?
Task Force
Oh, task
Officer,
force. Task
TFO.
force. Okay. Hmm.
And these goals are only the increases that you are seeing over basically the base budget. This is what the wish list is, basically. Everything else is built in and sustainable from last year based on budget trends. Going on to EMS, I got Carrie here if you have any particular questions, but I told her that I would cover it unless she wanted to come up and speak. You're looking, last year we entered into, I think it was a 2-year contract. Okay, 1 year. Well, to me, the way I read it, it looked like it was a 2-year. We'd have to give notice to pull out when I reviewed it again. But the increase is a 2.5% increase that they're asking for. That comes out to about $4,318 a year, and the total annual cost to the city would be $177,057.36. To me, that's more than reasonable. We need to sustain that EMS coverage. I know we've had outside vendors that have tried to come into the city in the past. I have had the pleasure of working with some of them or visiting with some of them over the years, and I'm not a fan. I really do like the homegrown solution and company we have into place here, and I hope that we can keep it. The other thing is they work very closely with the fire department. Their medical protocols and everything are more in line with one another now that they got the same medical director. And I would just love to see them get their annual renewal. Any questions for me or Carrie?
No?
And
Thank you.
hopefully, I will just say this with Gary's ears here, hopefully when you guys make your decisions, none of us are here so that there's no pressure.
Remember last year there were all kinds of,
Oh, yeah. we
have an
try-
extra donut over here or something.
Yeah, a lot of me. Well, thank you guys, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right,
you for the
thank
job that you all
Thank
do.
Thank you.
Yep. Appreciate it. Okay.
Oh, wait, I gotta see this PowerPoint.
So since everybody else yielded their time, I get the rest of the time until like noon, right?
No?
No.
They even made handouts.
Handouts. We already got a
We have a
novel.
handout.
Oh, pictures?
Yeah, mine's got little lines, you can take notes.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
It's that kind of PowerPoint.
Thank you, sir.
It requires notes, huh?
Oh, boy.
I'm not gonna have a test at the end, are we?
Mary, you don't do it.
All right. So this is our 2021 budget goals for the Aransas Pass Fire Department. And are you gonna go to slideshow?
You want-
Oh, I was gonna get you to go to the actual slideshow.
Oh. Well, I'm just gonna click it for you.
Okay.
Just tell me when.
All right, go ahead.
You wanna go past this?
No, right there. That's good.
Okay.
So our budget goals this year are staffing for adequate fire and emergency response and retention at a cost about $195. Fire department administrative assistant with estimated cost about $20,000, and purchasing a building to house our workout equipment, which is going to cost us around $22,000. So part of some of the stuff I wanted to let you guys see and share with us was I wanted you to see the equipment that we're trying to run with 4 guys. And this is all the stuff that we have right now. And right now we're maintaining, we were running a 3-man shift. It just wasn't enough. We would get down to 3 men if somebody took off. Now we're hiring in a guy to come in, even if we're for 4 guys, so we can maintain that 4 because we're just not able to keep up with all the equipment that we have. We cannot continue to ask our fire departments to protect our communities with inadequate resources We will continue to see the number of injuries and fatalities of firefighters and civilians increase in the future years until we get the staffing we need, not just one. And that's the thing about this. The staffing that we're asking for is not a want for us anymore. This is a need for us. But we are falling behind. The Aransas Fire Department is short on staff. This has been a goal that I've asked year after year after year after year. Ever since I've been here, this is the thing I've been asking for. We propose to add 3 firefighters this budget year. Previous years, we've asked for 6. We've always asked for 6 because that's really where we need to be. But we understand that 6 that's a big chunk. So we looked at how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. But we need the 3 guys off the bat in order to at least start us moving in that direction. I'm hoping in the 2022, similar to the same deal that you worked with the police chief on dispatch, give me one a year after that, and we'll work towards it, and we'll get to that 6. So to show, these are our calls and what we've been running. So what I think is interesting is in 2017, that was of course Hurricane Harvey, we ran 773 calls. Last year, we ran 779 calls. We ran more calls last year than we did at the hurricane. It was a 38% increase.
Why do you think that is?
Our EMS, we're running a lot more EMS. But we're providing a lot more service than we previously did too. So,
What are the majority of those calls for? What are they related to?
we only run on, we don't really run on sick calls or anything. It's shortness of breath, CPR, strokes, that kind of stuff. You know, major traumas, car wrecks, those kind of things. We're not going out on sick calls or unless they need help with lifting or something like that. But EMS pretty much handles all that. And but everything else, if you have a CPR, you need 4 or 5 guys working at the same time. And so it's a huge help to EMS when we can show up and help them out on that.
No.
So this is a kind of an interesting thing that I happened to come across. In 2007, Chief Joe Plumlee was hired by the city to do an assessment on the fire department. It was really interesting to read what they said back in 2007. One of the main things he said was, you need more firefighters. The city hired a professional in 2007 to tell them what they need, and we're still asking for the same thing. And so Chief Plumlee is still around. I've actually talked to him a few times before, never about this assessment. It was back when we were trying to do ISO stuff, because he's actually the guy to go to when you're trying to increase your ISO ratings. So he's still around. But even back then in 2007, he said, hey, you guys need to add 3 guys. I mean, that was 2007. That was a long time ago. When fewer than 4 firefighters arrive on scene, the first company is faced with a critical decision. Does it initiate an interior attack without adequate staffing and unnecessary risk to firefighters' safety, or does it delay the interior fire attack until the additional resources arrive, causing further fire damage? What this is saying is, would it be acceptable for us to have a burglary in process, send one police officer to that, at the same time we're having a domestic disturbance and we have to make a decision? And that's where we're at right now. We can either run an EMS call or we can run a fire. We can either go to that brush fire or we can go to that major wreck. We can't run 2 at a time. If we can get to the 5 guys, I can make that happen. And I think that's really important, and that's something that's been on my mind ever since I've been here. This is one of the initial needs that I saw the fire department need. The Texas Commission on Fire Protection requires us to do a 2-in, 2-out rule. It's mandated. Every fire department in Texas is supposed to meet this rule. What the 2-in, 2-out means is that when you're at a structure fire, if you're going to send 2 guys in to perform rescues, fight fire, whatever it is, you have to have 2 guys solely dedicated on the outside of the structure that their purpose is to go rescue that team. It's in our SOPs. We had to write it in there, or fire departments get fined and all that stuff. We very rarely meet this. Very rarely ever meet this. this is something that's asked on every grant. Do you guys have this? We always say yes, because it's in our SOPs. Yeah, we're gonna do this. It almost never happens. The only time that it's acceptable not for this not to be is an immediate rescue. You know there's a kid right there and you can go get him. What we have been doing is not the standard throughout the state. It is an old school mentality, and it is unsafe for us. We are a community of better service. This is what our current shifts look like right now. So if you, A shift, B shift, C shift, they come in, they're assigned to the engine every day. I still have a brush truck sitting there. I now have a ladder truck sitting there. I have another little engine sitting there. I got the boat. These guys are all assigned to that. When that truck rolls out, they roll out together as four. To split them up any more than that, even when I have to get down to three, which I hate and I don't try not to do anymore, this is where we're at. Look at that beautiful truck. Look at that. My favorite. Currently, the shifts are able to run a fully staffed engine company. They are not capable of running a multi-company response without splitting the crew 2 and 2. So when we have brush fires, we send out the engine, we break the crew off, 2 go in the brush truck. During a call, they are not able to respond to a simultaneous call. They can't be on an EMS call and respond to a brush fire at the same time. With the addition of more personnel, firefighters can be assigned to multiple trucks with little interruption to current strategies. It would allow for multi-company responses for fires and rescues and reduce the cost by running a squad unit for EMS calls. So the purpose of buying me a new admin truck was to free up Chief Borrego's old truck, which is the white one with the red stripe. That truck now is assigned to the fire station. That's their squad unit. If I can add personnel, assign them to that truck, instead of running that big heavy engine to every EMS call, now I'm running a pickup. It saves me tires, fuel, wear and tear on the engine, and it keeps that engine in service. I got 2 guys out on a EMS call, now I got an engine I can send to a call. So this kind of gives you an idea of what those shifts would look like then. And this is just adding 1 guy per shift. 1 guy per shift, the 3 that I'm asking for. I now have an engine crew for each shift, and I have a crew that can run ladder 1, squad 1, and the brush. That's pretty profound, just adding 1 guy. And then adding 1 more guy a year after that until now I have 2 almost fully outfitted units. So in review, this was a recommendation from 2007 by a professional who was hired by the city. It let us come closer to meeting the NFPA 1710, which is the minimum standards for fire department staffing, which is a national standard. It'll help us meet the mandates for the 2 and 2 out rule. This would allow us to run simultaneous calls, and we would be able to run the multiple companies to a single event, which is really important. I didn't touch on very much before. By having both an engine and a ladder at a structure fire, I just almost quadrupled my pumping capacity and the equipment I have on scene now. Now instead of 1 engine on scene trying to do everything waiting for backup, now I have two pumps on scene that can pump a lot more water until someone gets on scene. It's a huge difference in what our capabilities are right now. All right, the fun one. The fire department needs an administrative staff. And we'll just kind of move into that one. The fire department's requesting a new part-time position. We need someone that can come in and help us about 20 to 30 hours a week. And it's just an entry-level position. They're gonna help us with some, filing on the computers, submitting forms. We have a lot of reports that have to go back to the state and, help us with our grant writings, stuff like that. That's what we're looking for. Previously, you can go to the next one. We've asked the nice police department to help us with everything we do. In fact, anything that we can talk them into doing. so Steph has always been amazing, and then when we lost her to police department, we didn't know what we were gonna do and how we would ever get another budget written, and still today, we still call her, and, we had Clarissa helping us out, we do a lot of invoicing, all our bills we have to pay, and it just eats up our time, and keeps us away from doing the things at the fire station that the chief and the assistant chief fire marshal should be doing. But thank God for Stephanie, she should get a $10 million raise here.
Hey, $10 million.
$10 million.
Yikes.
She's worth her weight.
Yeah.
So the administrative assistant would maintain the records for us, and I didn't add TDHS. So the fire department has to maintain continuing education, not just for the fire department, but also EMS. And we need someone to kind of help us with that as well, getting those records, making sure that we're meeting all the mandates that come out every year. Answering the phones. A lot of times, there's no one in the station. I don't know if you guys ever call the station. It just goes to voicemail. There's almost never anybody there. I usually answer the phone if they're calling me, but as far as just calling into the station, there's no one there. It'd be nice to have a voice at the end of that line, answering the phone. Sometimes it's people calling in about, hey, we want to do a burn, and no one answers. And it's we should be burning that day, and they just start the burn. Well, I called the fire department, no one answered, you know. But they're used to what they deal with some of these volunteer fire departments where no one's there during the day. They just call and leave a message, you know. And we need some help with out-of-town training, invoicing, budget tracking, and all the other things that we relied on Steph to help us with. Bless her heart. And we do take her time away from her chiefs. All departments have someone who fills this role. But except we don't have anybody. I would put a firefighter on it, but my firefighters rotate every day. And, you know, they got cleaning to do, training to do, working out to do, you know, all the stuff that they do. So they're not really a good fit for this type of role. All right, portable building for gym equipment. So most of y'all have been inside the fire station and seen how small that department, the station is getting for us. The ladder truck, when we put that in there, we had to do a lot of moving around and stuff. And we moved lockers around and the workout equipment around, and we got it in there so we could have a drive-through bay right there. We didn't have that when I first started. So we have that now, but now we have another truck coming. And we need to house that other truck. So what we were looking at was a low-cost effort, or a low-cost option for us to move the workout equipment out of the station and put it in a building. We'll go to the next one there. My guys work out, they're mandated by the state to work out at least a certain amount of time per shift. We're the only people that I know, they don't make the police do that, EMS do it, firefighters have to work out every day. I don't know why we're the only one that have a physical assessment, but, I mean, and we have to get medical assessments and all that. We're the only ones, I don't know. But in the past, we've had employees, well, originally it was over at the 520 building, and everybody kind of used it, but everybody knows the condition of that building and how bad it was. But I've had people actually come up and say, hey, we'd like to work out, but we don't want to be in there with the firefighters, you know. And it's more of a, you know, because the guys are working and they want to be working out and not have firefighters walking around and stuff like that. So I kind of understood that, because it's kind of like the whole purpose behind the reason that Planet Fitness started. You know, my guys are strong, they're lifting, you know, 300 pounds, and, you know, people don't want to come in there and be intimidated by that. So I totally understand.
That's not intimidating, that's encouraging.
I think so too. That comes from a CrossFit form. All right, the next one. And this kind of shows you where we moved the lockers to. We're just out of room. I mean, we're out of room in that station. The station was built in 96, right? And it's just was never designed to hold all this. But we're going to relocate the lockers and all that stuff. The delivery and setup is part of the purchase of the building. when you get them, they're not finished out inside. I'm lucky to have guys that are not just firefighters, but have some kind of weird trade on their off days. We have guys that are capable of doing everything. If I could just hire an electrician, if I could hire my own electrician, that would be awesome. But we have welders, guys that could do sheetrock, painting, all that stuff. So all the finish out in the interior, we would do ourselves. It'd just be buying the cost of the materials, except for stuff that has to be done by an electrician. And hopefully, we would either have to hire that out or try to get Mr. Gomez to help us out.
Where are you looking at putting this building?
So, right outside the station where the guys park on the very far side, this building will fit right in there.
How big
And,
is the building?
16 by 24.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was gonna say, that's not
Yeah,
It's not very big.
it's not a big area
And-
there.
And we
yeah.
can AC it, put a window unit in it. The area that we have right now that we're working out in is actually smaller than what this building is. So we can actually spread the equipment out. The other thing that would be good about this outside, people could work out 24/7. If, a night crew wants to work out, or a guy's getting off at, midnight, that's when he does his workouts. He can come use the building, be in AC, have lighted. It's in a safe area by the station. And I just think it'd be a really good upgrade, not just for the fire department, but for the city as a whole, because right now, very rarely do we have someone, it's usually an officer or two comes over and works out. But you never know when that's gonna be, but they do use it. We would like to see them use it more. We'd like to see everybody in the city use it more.
I've seen some of the firefighters working out at Texas Strong. Do we not have any type of contract or anything with them as far as,
No, they were doing that for a little while. That guy was helping them with some programming, the workouts that they were doing. That was a primary reason for them doing that. I discourage that. I try to keep them in-house. I want them to work out at the station. But, really and truly, like some of these places will say, hey, you guys can work out for free if you like, or, if you guys work out here, then we'll help you with your programming and that kind of stuff. But
yeah.
we don't really have a contract with anything unless, now, Jake might. Jake, I don't know where I think he does work out at Texas Strong, though.
Right, that's who I've seen up there.
But he's,
Yeah.
that's what he does all day
Yeah.
on his days off. He's swole.
Right.
Okay, I have a couple of questions.
Good.
Let's start with the administrative assistant. You said 20 to 30 hours. Do they need any particular training, and what are you looking at for salary-wise?
So I'm looking probably about $15 an hour. Of course, with them being part-time, there's no benefits with that.
Correct.
We're hoping just to find somebody that doesn't want to be at home and would like to just come in and do some work.
Okay.
Basically, any like typing, computer skills, Excel. We use Excel, Word, Adobe. We have a couple different online programs that we use. Someone that is really good with editing would be good, because no one can spell apparently at the fire station. But
The computers do it. It's called spell check.
you would think so. When I wrote this program, Steph's like, nope, you misspelled that one. Nope, you misspelled that one.
Does that mean you just have to be strong, not smart, or?
That's right. That's right.
Ooh, the
That's why
second
we go in the
question would
burning
be.
building. That's why we're in the burning building while everybody else is running out. Like, we call it bravery.
I
Come
guess
on.
when you go rescue someone from a burning building, they don't ask, can you spell?
Yeah, exactly.
Get out of here.
We go in there,
Exactly.
Yep, you're hired.
What about the cost of the building? What do you think the cost of the building and then the cost of the build-out would be?
Okay, so the 22,000, that's it.
That covers everything.
That
That's-
covers the
that's
whole
everything.
thing.
And you already have the
Okay.
equipment, right? Y'all already have the equipment, or?
We would have to buy, oh yeah, all the gym equipment? Yeah, we have everything.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah,
thought.
we're like a CrossFit gym over there.
Right.
Yeah, everything's there. And a lot of people like working out over at the station. And like I said, all that equipment originally was at the 520 building. Well, not everything we have now, but I've bought some equipment since, but everything was originally over there. And I know people did originally go over there and work out, but of course, when that building deteriorated the way it did, all that equipment got moved out and moved to our station. it was a logical place to put it, but now it's just so much, it's eating up so much room, and I gotta put a brush truck in there, another brush truck. And if I'll show you the last picture, I wanted to show y'all some of the things that we got to accomplish off of what we did last year. We had a wedding, we had Girl Scouts, we saved a cat that got worldwide. I still get messages every day about this cat, every
Oh my
day. Thank
gosh.
y'all for doing that.
Mm.
Bacon Fest, somebody won the bacon cook-off. That's
Yay.
Fireworks. We actually did a promotion during COVID where we weren't allowed to touch each other. It'd probably be on this side. You can see the guys with the mask. But thank you for allowing us to do the things that we do. Without the backing of our city council, we wouldn't be able to do the things that we do. And the monies that y'all allocate to us, that's what provides the stuff for us. So without that, and without the support of the community and you being their representatives, we wouldn't be able to do this. And we're a direct we want to be a direct reflection of what the community wants. So thank you for that.
Thank you for the job that you all do.
Where is the cat?
What year is the cat? That's,
Where's
Now,
the
where
cat?
is the cat?
you know, we actually did an update. That cat got adopted out by 2 firefighters from Ingleside.
Oh.
And they still have the cat.
Ingleside. You allowed that to happen?
The last thing I need at my house is another cat. So it wasn't going home with me. But they call it Loco because they said that's a locomotive piston.
Loco.
So they named the cat Loco. And there's an update video on our Facebook page with the cat playing and jumping around and stuff. So get on there and look. The cat's on there still. And we keep up with them and how the cat's doing.
And give updates, put updates, post the updates on it.
Yeah.
Well, I
we post
also-
updates on Loco.
I also heard that you had a ladder truck call
We did.
by Rosemary.
We did.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Another cat.
Another cat.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Yeah.
But hopefully she
cat's
went home with
that.
that.
That was a straight up feral cat, and I bet that cat's still running.
It's in Florida now.
Probably.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank y'all.
Thank
Folks, if we could have a short break,
Good.
All right.
come back, it's 9 o'clock. We finished about 15 minutes early. If we can come back about 10 minutes after 9. and
Good.
go to the next.
All right.
Let's keep
All righty.
moving.
Next.
Okay, Public Works, is this the correct? Yes. Just tell me when to move it.
All right. Good morning, Mayor and Council.
Good morning.
Well, thank y'all for the opportunity to come and present to y'all and show y'all what our needs are, and hopefully y'all don't listen to Chief and just select everything on Public Works sheet. Real quick, just want to do a quick overview of what we're going to discuss today. We're going to go over what we've accomplished this year, what our planning for next year, and then our needs. Go over a quick summary of our budget that we're proposing for next year, and then go over our organizational chart and where we are with staffing and certifications. So if you go to the org chart, this is the way Public Works and Development Services is broken down right now. We do still have currently 9 positions open. It's hard to find good staff, but we're rather take our time, and it might take us 20 interviews before we hire one person, but we'd rather hire someone that's going to be dedicated to the job and do quality work than just to hire anyone off the street. So we struggle a bit, but in the long run, it pays off. We do appreciate y'all allowing us in the past, we've been increasing our training budget, and that's been helping us out. We've been to the point where TCQ was on us for not having sufficient licensed personnel in the city. We went from having 1 to now having 8 certified licensed operators with TCQ. So slowly, surely, we're getting all our staff up to par and getting CDLs, water licensing, sewer licensing, sediment erosion control certification, mosquito spraying certification, and then we're training all our staff now on the equipment and getting actual certification on the use of equipment instead of just allowing them to learn on their own. So we appreciate that. If you look at the next sheet, you'll see a quick summary
Sounds like
of the previous year's budgets, and then where we're at for this next coming year, what we're looking at with proposed budgets. And you'll see some departments have increased slightly and some have dropped. Yes.
How come under Burl, when you have Tito as code enforcement, how come Corey is not, I don't see Corey.
Corey falls under the police department.
So why is one with the police and why is one with?
Tito does more of the building side of code enforcement, and Corey does more of the
Tickets.
and the enforcement
Okay.
of weedy lots and those subpar properties.
Did they both get their certifications yet?
Uh,
Tito's going, I don't know what date, it's this month, I think he's going to, right at the lane.
Right.
He's supposed to go,
And what about Corey? Did he ever get his certification?
not yet.
And are we gonna push on that one?
I'm using Tito as my hammer. He started after Corey, and he was kind of the same.
Because I thought Corey promised us he was gonna get his certification.
There's some issues, I think, that Chief Blanchard is trying to work out.
Oh, okay, okay,
There was a couple, I think,
okay. Okay,
Okay.
sorry.
No problem. So as you can see, the total budget, there is a decrease from last year's. A lot of it is also dealing with our water purchase. We dropped a lot on our water purchase due to repairs we've done. Some of the leaks we found that were probably leaking for several years have been repaired, and now it's helping us in our water purchase, dropping quite a bit from previous years. So, and then once we start going into the line-by-line budgets further along this process, y'all see where the differences are. Before I go into the staff request, just want to give a quick overview of what we accomplished this year. Thanks to the leadership that we have here before us, y'all have given us permission and given us the tools and stuff we need to do a lot of more work in-house. With savings we had from bonds, we put 9 more streets on the list to pave, and we are down to, I think, 4 pending to be completed. and then we'll be done with those. We did 2 miles of rehabilitation to roadways in the city as well. We got a street sweeper that we've been using now and maintaining our curbs. We've got lots of grants. We got the $10.7 million grant to help all our storm infrastructure, mainly Stephen McCampbell, that's been long awaited for. And then some sewer projects as well with Wearing and Wheeler that are being redone through this grant. We got the harbor grant that is fixing our roadways and putting a curb and gutter and hike and bike trail and a new parking lot at the harbor. We've gotten the grant to do the 29 backup generator systems for our lift stations and storm pumps to help us out in emergencies that we don't have to, if power goes out, we have a backup system that can kick on and keep our system going, and we don't have to go through the same scenarios we did when Harvey and we had to wait several weeks before we could get our sewer system back up. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and we're trying to do a lot more work in-house to save the city money. Just for the equipment we've purchased for the paver and the sipper, and those investments that we've done have tenfold back towards the city, not paying someone to do it when we're able to do it in-house. Yes, there's still some learning curves when staff comes in, but in the long run, it's saving us a lot of money. The staff, now there's more license in the utility department, is doing a lot more work in-house and fixing hydrants themselves. Instead of having to just ride out and buy them, now they have the training to take them apart and fix them, instead of just spending another $5,000 on a new hydrant, sometimes a couple $100 just to make a repair. So, and even with the valves as well, the utility valves, they have the training now to take them apart and fix them. So they'll replace one, take the broken one back to the shop, do some work on it. If it's repairable, they reuse it at a later point and swap it out with another one, and in the long run, it's saving us a lot of money.
Good.
The next couple of sheets are our list of all the requests. We sat down with each staff department, and just like we do to y'all, they have to present to us what their wishes are and what their needs are, and then we weed out the ones we feel are the more important ones, and then we put them here on the list. On the very top, of course, we have the staff salaries, and this is across the board for all the city employees. One of the biggest reasons we lose staff is because they're being enticed by other cities with more money. This is our biggest wish right now, is to try to bring our salary employees up to $15 an hour to match Ingleside. I know it's probably not gonna happen this year, but we still have it there as our priority. Hopefully this will allow us to keep more staff on hand instead of the constant rotation out. And then on the rest of the list, like I said, each department has their needs. I'm not gonna go through every single one of these. I'll go through the ones that are the most important. If you go to the slide with the equipment needs, number 10, the next one. As y'all know, our dump trucks, we've been asking for these for the past 5 years. I know prior to Harvey, we were in the process of getting them, and Harvey came and put a halt to that. At this point, we're without trucks. All three have been tagged out, and we are no longer allowed to drive them. Brakes don't work on them. Electrical doesn't work on them. As you can see, these are from 2004. There's a lot of rust going on. On the bottom left corner, you see where the wiring is sticking out from underneath the dashboard, and they've got to do stuff with it to get it to work. So at this point, it's already tagged out. Others, the beds of the trucks are all full of holes. They've been plates welded on them over and over and over again, and at this point, they don't hold enough material. They're dropping material. They're driving down the street. So one's burning oil. Another one doesn't. The brakes don't work. So they've been tagged out completely. And now anytime we need a dump truck, which is almost daily, we're having to rent them at $675 a day.
Wow.
Anytime they do a water break, a sewer break, a storm replacement, they have to haul material out. They're having to use the backhoe and the loader and make several trips to the yard or rent a truck because we don't have the dump trucks to do it. These are estimated at about $115,000 each.
150?
Yes, $115,000.
115, 115.
Yeah, okay.
And like I said, all three of the trucks we have been tagged out and no longer in service.
Can we sell them for scrap and get
Yes.
some money back into our budget?
That's one thing we're looking at, having an auction here pretty soon, and that's something we want to place in there since we can't use them anymore.
And every piece of new equipment that we get, do we put a preventative maintenance schedule
Yes.
together so that, I mean, I know for years, nothing was ever
neglected,
taken
yes.
care of, and so,
Currently, right now, daily, there's a PM on vehicles. They gotta do
Okay.
walkthroughs and check oils and all that before they get in the vehicles in the morning. And then once a week, each department has their day that they do PMs, and they're assigned vehicles and equipment. So on those days, they have 4 hours in the morning to grease them, check them, and fuel them, and do all the maintenance they have to do on the vehicles. And then they have to fill out a form, and that goes in the file.
so those records are
If we
kept.
ever have an issue, if something breaks down, we can go back and see who was the last person that checked it, and did they claim it as an issue or not, and we can kind of narrow it down to who's the one not taking care
That's
of it.
just checking and not doing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
On the next page, are John Deere tractors. We have two of them that are from 2006. As you can see too, these have rust on them. The floorboards are falling apart. You can see on the roof on one of them, they put plastic bags on it on the hole so that water doesn't come in when it does rain and they're still out there. The one on the bottom right, the PTO doesn't engage anymore. It just spins. It's been worked on too much that it's no longer working. So we're requesting that we get 2 new John Deeres so that we can continue with the mowing. These are used mainly on the islands or at the harbor, the shrimpery grounds, the bigger areas, so that we can mow. And at Pelican Cove, on the medians out there, we use these a lot as well. On the next page,
How much are they?
For 2 of them, it's $109,606.
yeah, so they're
I
about
just looked at that.
55,000 apiece. On the next page, you have trailers. We have several trailers that are in very bad shape, and as you can see on the top right, those are our trailers. They're still being used. The frames are warped. The fenders over the wheels are all rusted out and broken. The floorboards on a lot of these have been replaced already several times. These are not very expensive. They run about $3,000 a piece. We're asking at least 2 to replace those 2 right there they shouldn't be in service anymore, because you hit a dip, that corner tends to hit every time because it's lopsided. The other one is a small roller. We've had since 2004. It's no longer operational. If you can see the seat that it has on there is actually from an old van. They pulled it out of the transfer station and they put it on there. And they used it like that for several years, but at this point, it's no longer functional. It doesn't work anymore. This is mainly used when we do smaller patches or potholes so that it compact better. Instead of them hitting it with the truck or the handheld packer, they would go with a small roller and compact it properly. So we were requesting that as well.
And how much is that?
That
Do you have
one,
the price on that, Jen?
It's on the front, on the first couple of pages.
$6,250 for the trailers and small rollers.
yeah. There's 25,000 total for
Trailers and
the
rollers.
that one is the roller with its own trailer because of the weight. It has to have a certain trailer.
And how much
Okay.
is, and how much is that?
That
Just-
runs 25,000 for the trailer.
trailer and the
the
roller.
roller, yes.
Okay.
And then finally, we go to the wastewater treatment plant. This one, we've been doing already a lot of work out there. Last year, y'all approved $350,000 towards the treatment plant. We're doing one clarifier right now, and we've done the drying beds. This next portion, the racetrack, is where all our sewage comes in through. As you can see, the railing on those catwalks is completely rusted out and falling. The catwalk itself, all the concrete is falling, and you can see rebar, and it's failing. The picture on the bottom left is from the last rain event. We actually ended up overtopping at the sewer plant, but it's become an unsafe environment. all our aerators and motors are on those catwalks, so staff is constantly having to go out there to them. We didn't have a price when we put this together, but I got a quote, and it's just under 200,000 to do all the repairs to the
200,000.
concrete and catwalks out there on the racetracks.
You think that's where they found local went from to, or just the catwalk local?
Catwalk.
And in continuing with the treatment plant, the clarifiers, as I mentioned, we're repairing one right now through a SCP program with TCQ. The second clarifier's in the same shape. The motors are old. We've had a failure on them before. They've been rehabbed, but it's around this time we need to start thinking about replacing that motor completely.
I have a question. You said that this last rain event we had a problem with their overflow.
Mhm.
Is it because of the motors or what?
We had several issues that
Okay.
week. Sunday night, lightning struck and it fried a lot of the electrical, so we lost power on the aerators. And then we're down one clarifier right now because it's under repair.
Mhm.
So when we had all this rain event come in, we have a lot of infiltration of stormwater into our sewer system. And it just all came into the sewer plant, and it's hard to keep up with what we have.
And this isn't helping, right? The rain.
No, it's not. And another thing too that I forgot to mention earlier is with this past budget, staff was able to purchase a smoke machine for our sewer system, so we can smoke test our lines, and that's something we're getting a plan in place before we start, so that we can start educating residents. If they see smoke coming up, it's because we're testing the lines, and we'll be notifying them. And this way we can identify where there's either cleanouts or pipes that are broken or manholes that are not capped properly, so that we can prevent this rainwater from getting into our system. And then staff is also in the process right now purchasing a boring machine for water taps, so that when we have to go across the street, instead of tearing up a street, we save $3,000 by just boring it underneath the street. And that would be for any service lines, not for full, well, maybe we can do a full line, but mainly it's for all the service lines, because we always have to do cut acrosses on a lot of these streets, and that will save us a lot of money.
And then you mess up
Thank
the
goodness.
street.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
you
I've been-
sure do.
I've
And
been
as
saying
we're
that
get-
since I was on the council, quit cutting the streets.
So now as we're getting, these streets paved and we're getting all these storm projects done, we're gonna get new streets, and we hate to come back and have to do a open cut. So this way, with this
That's what they-
machine,
yeah.
we'll be able to do all the water line, service lines with a bore instead of open cut. So as you can see too, the center drum that holds the rake is in very bad shape. The rake itself needs to be repaired. And then the weir is that metal trough on the outside. It should never be completely submerged. It should be mostly out of water. And right now it's off balance, and it needs a lot of work. And then the digester is a huge holding tank out there that is just full of sludge. We would like to pump it down completely, remove it, clean it, and fix it so that we use it properly. That's been there for years, and all it's used for right now is just to hold our sludge until we're ready to process it. And it needs to be cleaned out completely. It hasn't been touched in years.
How much is that? Just that?
That was 100 and. Let's see. The digester is 125,000,
Okay.
and the clarifier is 175,000. And these.
I think you like the 100,000, right? You like that total,
Yeah.
that number?
One option for this is when we increase the haul rates, fees for sludge trucks at the treatment plant, we had agreed that the additional money would be put aside for projects. That's something we can look at to see if we can get funds from there to cover some of these expenses.
That's good.
And with that, I'll turn it over to Burl.
Wait a minute, I have a question
Okay,
for
yeah.
you. The very first thing that you said was to get everybody up to speed at about $15 an hour. What do you believe the overall increase would be? You don't
Mainly
have
right
a-
now,
You
we're
don't
at-
have an amount here.
Yeah, it's hard because we don't have all the positions filled, and then right now, most of our staff, they're starting at $11.25 an hour. And then they get certification pay. So
God
let's
bless.
with all the staff members we've had, they all have different certifications, so we gotta go through and see how, that's something that we gotta sit down with Gary and Sandra and see how the full adjustment would be made. Because, yes, the minimum salary would be raised, but then the staff that already has certification, how would that work?
They have to be raised also,
Yes,
of
and
course.
so that's something we gotta sit down and look through, so I didn't wanna put a number on there because I don't know what that number will be, cause.
Pick one out of the air. Annually, what do you think?
100,000, right?
100,000? 100,000, okay.
125.
Yeah, I can run some numbers and try to get an estimate.
Yeah, but we only have a certain period of time to use our dots, so, you know, if we don't know, we can't put a dot on it.
Well,
Yeah, but
he has
this is
another-
not just,
Another chance.
yeah, but this won't just affect Public Works, it'll be meter readers and all
Right,
city
right.
staff.
I know you talked about certification, and your certification class got moved again because
Yes,
of
and I'm already
COVID.
re-registered for it.
And
it's,
when's the new,
October 23rd.
well, let's
Yes.
pray that
It doesn't get changed again.
it doesn't get changed again. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm okay for now. I'm okay.
I think the next year these slides need to be made a little bit bigger for us.
Yeah.
We just need to all get a magnifying glass. Hello?
We'll put it in the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. My budget's pretty small. I mean,
good.
The majority of it that we had $80,000 for demos last year, and we've only gotten about 10,000 of that, and a lot of that's COVID. We put the demo process on hold through all this. We are starting that back up. We started that back up last week, so. Other than that, I mean, I'm actually cut my budget already. I know you guys will probably be cutting people's budgets, but we cut from last year about $10,000. I do have one new inspector, Bobby, and the majority of what I'm needing is, I went up on my training. Bobby went and got his state license for both commercial and residential plumbing inspector. John's going in July, I think, to get his commercial electrical inspector's license. He has his residential already. Tito is going to go get his license for code enforcement. And then, of course, I've got tons of stuff I need to do on my end for licenses and continuing education. So that's, to me, that's important with our training. I don't know if you guys have any questions. We're just staying about the same. We had about $270,000 for permits this year, and we ended up with about a little over 10 grand for licenses and fees from contractors and what have you. With the way things are going and what I'm hearing kind of through the grapevine, the town's getting ready to really start growing. So I'm trying to keep our costs down. It's just, if we don't need it, we don't do it. So I don't know if you guys have any questions on what I've got there. It's
So what I'm hearing from you is mostly just the training is what you're asking for?
Yes,
The
ma'am.
money for training? Okay.
we are asking for 80,000 for demos this year. And we're gonna try and use that. I've tried to be frugal with that and get, when we can, get people to pick up their own demolition costs. And we've been successful with that, but I think we're coming to the end of the road for that, where we're gonna start having to do some of those ourselves.
Well, that's without even a question from me as far as the demos, that's just
I
a
agree.
need.
And we do have over 30 on our list. We started out last week, I think we had, I don't know, if it maybe 6 or 8 of them come in. We're trying to ease back into it. And after the meeting, I told Roxanne, let's just bring 30. Let's just bring everything we've got to the next meeting. We're gonna be spending more time on it, and see if we can start getting this thing rolling again. Because we had some momentum, and it just stopped. I shouldn't say it just stopped. I've got builders that have come in, but it's not on the scale that I think it needs to be. We've had probably 2 or 3 since COVID. And there's one over on Arch, they tore it down. They were building the next day. So,
That's good.
That's what we need. Okay.
Okay.
I think mine, we've got, I don't know, the $12 an hour planning tech. I think that may be for OSAE. So I'll let him get into that. Any questions? Mine?
No,
I mean,
thank
mine's
you.
really
Thank you.
simple and really not changing much. Okay.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I like the first one, your employees are overwhelmed.
Basically, my division is not that big, but very significant division in terms of planning the city and in terms of development. The zoning tool is very significant. To me, I see it as a tool because almost every department has to look at what structural development project is zoned for in the first place before it can begin to be processed. And so planning and zoning division is very significant in the development of the city. The division is not that big. Currently, I'm the only one handling the planning and zoning. And almost every application that comes to building division has to be reviewed for zoning compliance. So I go through every application for building. And I think the workload needs to be shared with an assistant. In other words, a planning technician who will help the very basic day-to-day processes of application and help me get forward with some policy analysis in terms of the mid-range and the long-term planning, comprehensive planning projects that are before the city. In this way, I'm requesting that we get a planning tech who is going to be paid for a rate of $12 an hour, and that will get to $24,960 per annum.
Where can we find that planning tech? Are there colleges that we can reach out to where they offer this, that they may be able to work under you? Or where do you plan to find a planning tech? Because prior to you, we had city planners that weren't.
In actual fact, I discussed that with Fernando as to whether that planning tech will have to have the basic planning knowledge and skills.
Sure.
And he said no, because if we decide, like he's saying, if we decide to hire them, if they have it, that rate, $12 an hour, may go a little bit up.
I was gonna say, I don't
So-
think you can get
You
someone.
can go to work for McDonald's for that, or,
Yeah.
what did Target just say? Entrance now for
15.
anybody is going to $15 an hour. The rates are going up.
Right. So that's where we have to look at. Are we going to get somebody, let's say, a high school associate, or basically?
We can send them through training and
Yeah.
certification, and at that
So-
rate, give certification for you.
To me, this is just me. To me, I don't think you'll attract anyone for 12.
I agree. I agree.
That's just my opinion, because I know that bank tellers,
Mhm.
when I the bank here was 15, and I hear some of the banks are finally going up to $15 an hour. So that's just, I mean, a bank teller, you know, you have to have a little bit experience as far as cash handling and things. So I don't think 12B realistic. I would say you have to be at least $15, $17 an hour. That's what I'm thinking,
Yes.
in my opinion.
Yep.
And yes, you can send them for certification, yes. But I'm thinking that if you can find someone that already has basic knowledge, I think, and I'm looking, because I know that the city's gonna be growing, and you don't want to have that person out for training. I don't know how long the training takes. Sometimes it takes about a couple of weeks, depending each class. So, just to really make it attractive, I would say you would have to be between 15 to 17 at least, in my opinion.
Okay.
That's just in
I
my
agree.
opinion, okay?
I agree. Our boat washers,
What do you think, my best friend?
I think she's right.
Okay,
yeah.
good.
It's the same thing as hiring, it's the same thing as hiring another city employee to, at $10 an hour and put him in a backhoe and mess the backhoe up because he doesn't know any better.
Right,
Right. Yep.
all right. So, what you see on the screen is just the basic current planning. When we say current planning, is talks about every day-to-day activities of the planning division. And so you see that the blue has to do with variance applications that mostly go to the Board of Zoning Adjustment, where applicants come in for a waiver of the required setbacks, either to the front property line, side, or the rear. And that is where these applications go before the Board of Zoning Adjustment. They handle such cases. The red one is the conditional use permits. I guess you know about them already because some of them come before you. And we have time limits on such applications up to 5 years. So it ranges from 6 months, 1 year, up to 5 years, depending on the situation and case-by-case basis. And the yellow one has to do with subdivisions. We have minor and major subdivisions. Example is the Hogan Homes. It's a major subdivision. A minor subdivision will be an individual property, single lot, tract, or plat that wants to divide or subdivide into two. That would be a minor subdivision. So the violet one is the rezoning application. I guess that's your favorite one. We need to control rezoning applications because they, in effect and in the long run, affect the comprehensive plan policies. And so,
Exactly right. And I mean,
Exactly.
we spent a
Yes.
lot of money on that comprehensive plan. I believe
Right.
we've got to follow it. We can't say, oh, okay, it's okay that you put a manufactured home there.
it is kind of tricky because it comes in incrementally. Over a year period, you might have individual or a group or a company coming to rezone a tract or a land. And so you look at it individually, but over a certain period of time, you see a whole area or spot of areas rezoned. And if you compare it to the projection of the comprehensive plan, it shifts. And so you will have to be very strong and determinant in relation to the comprehensive plan.
Following it, yes.
Yeah, and follow it to meet that goal. So that is what I have. I'm not going to waste your time with zoning and planning issues. Thank you. Any questions?
I just want to go back to the salaries, you know, something that I was thinking about and before you started on. And it's me, I would rather start someone a little bit higher and have them stay with the city. We get somebody for $12 an hour, we train them, we give them all this training, and now off they go to somebody else.
Yeah.
And that has been something that we've dealt with before, so starting them a little bit higher and making them know that we want them here, I think is important.
Okay. We have noted that down, and we'll do a further discussions on with Fernando and see the best starting pay will
Right.
be.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Well, Chuck isn't here, so he gets nothing.
Finance is down the hall, so let's go to finance.
Okay. Thank you, Osei,
Bye-bye.
and Burl, and Fernando.
Well, I think we've been to training,
All right.
city for a lot of cities around here, right?
That's it.
They come
Mhm.
in, they get trained.
Yep.
they
And
work
off
out-
they go.
and then
And
They
then
get their, they get their,
I'll
get
see you
their,
later.
they get their degree or
Oh,
whatever, you know.
there's
what's the
Sarah.
name,
Yeah.
Torres, what was the one that went to work for Rockport, what was her,
Oh.
Torres, Amanda?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was super smart, and then she just got
You
her
have to do a
degree
better
and
job.
went to Rockport.
Yep, yep, and that's the way it
That's
is.
Amanda Torres.
Amanda.
Yeah.
We're having them come in spaced
Yeah.
because of
Yep.
COVID.
How's
Right.
everybody doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, good to see everybody.
Yep.
I kind of modified mine as I've been watching because I felt kind of greedy. So,
You feel kind of what?
I felt kind of greedy asking for some of the things I was asking for after seeing some of the other departments. So, Gary, I did email you.
Yeah, I've been here, I have.
Oh, you have access to your email?
I was gonna say, I don't think she didn't have anything here, okay.
Did you forward it? Thank you. Hi.
She's here to scope out on all the costs.
Are we going to get
No.
at the, okay. Well, then we'll just approve then we're just gonna approve everything, you know, okay. If we don't have a budget that we need to work within, give it to them.
What's a budget?
Budget?
Wow.
Are we gonna have like, this is the amount that we can spend this year, a little bit additional to,
Until they finish meeting with us, with a,
well,
We would not have the official number until the 25th of July, when they do the certified values
I was gonna say.
at the appraisal district.
do you have a guesstimate?
I do have, values, there were estimated values, they were very high, we did some annexation. You have to
Right.
keep that in mind.
Right.
I've confirmed that with the appraisal district, it is a lot more value than we had on the tax roll before. The only concern with that is the litigation that's still ongoing with that,
Oh, yeah.
and if we lose the lawsuit.
Well, let's take that piece of the puzzle out.
That money,
Yeah.
so, yes, so that's what we're trying to see if we can do that with the tax assessment.
There's Chuck. Chuck's here too.
We need to see where we are with the litigation and all of that, and how that's gonna come into play once we go into adopting the tax rate, because that's gonna affect your rate.
Sure it will.
Because the higher your value, the lower your rate.
Come on in, Chuck. We got plenty of room.
I just would like to have an idea before
Did you
we
get your
start
hair wet?
saying, okay, building demolition, technology, municipal court, tri-county, just an idea of what we can spend without hurting the city.
What, I think what we did last year
Okay.
is that.
Hi, how are you?
Whatever y'all put on there.
Right.
Okay,
and they met with us individually.
Right.
We got to looking into that. And
I remember that for you, yes.
we didn't-
So we will start off with the second slide, Gary, and it's just a little bit of Civic Center background info, just to let you know that the, unlike most departments within our municipality, the Civic Center does not fall under the general fund, so there's a little bit of funding that's different there. It is funded by the MDD Board, which was established in 1998 by a citizens vote to allocate a portion of sales tax collected to fund economic development. The Civic Center was constructed with monies that came from 20-year bonds that will be paid in 2027. So there's 7 more years on those bonds. at which point the MDD board will no longer be obligated to pay the operating deficit of the Civic Center. The bond payments are about $550,000 a year, and the MDD also funds the deficit, which historically runs about $250,000 a year. But after those bonds are paid off, they're no longer obligated to pay the deficit. That's going to have to, like the Aquatic Center was, be absorbed by the city at some point. MDD's revenues come from a portion of the sales tax, and there is a little bit over $1 million. We had a meeting this past week in their fund balance. Okay, if you'll go to the next slide. I'm only asking for two things this year for the Civic Center, and it's probably most likely that that MDD could and will fund this. You know, we've kind of visited with them about it. We've actually visited with you all about it. At the start of fiscal year 2021, all of our repairs will be complete for the Civic Center. It's taken 3 years, but we will be a state-of-the-art facility. All of our audio, visual, sound equipment, all brand new, furniture brand new. So we're probably going to be the biggest and best facility in the Coastal Bend. So because of that, we want to just concentrate this year or this coming year on getting more business in our doors. So we've talked before about hiring a marketing manager. A marketing manager will cost about $50 to $60 a year because we just want to do more business, not only locally, but regionally. This was in the works prior to COVID-19, and again, MDD could fund this. And the other thing I would like to visit is a storage facility for the Civic Center. If we start doing simultaneous events at the same time, we just have to have somewhere to put our stuff. We move it from room to room. It's wear and tear on our carpet, our furniture, our door frames, everything. We just need to have like an allocated spot for stuff. Plus, it's a big labor burden to move all that stuff around. And it's big stuff, like stacks of tables, heavy stuff. So it just would be, bless you. It would be nice to have a place for that. That's going to run about 20 steps. I've looked at different options, but one just outside the building to not take up very many parking spots, like a portable style, like a double one that would take up 4 parking spots, about $27,000. And that would just be like right out the back of the garage doors, and it wouldn't take up too much space, and there would be no like foundation required for that. So that's something I would really like for you all to consider. Again, MDD would probably, we visited with them, and they would probably be willing to fund that as well. It's something we've visited, we've circled back to many times. So that's really all I have for that. Next slide is the library, and you can see that these are our vision, our mission statement, but we can go on to the next slide. I will tell you that the library, we have an overbid. In the past 5 years, we've done a lot of, y'all have seen what we've done at the library. We've done a lot of work, and we've gotten a lot of that money from library overbid to do like carpet. We got a grant to do the shutters. We're really not in need of anything. We've gotten a quote to do the roof, but we are going to just repair it for this year. We got a roofing company that said that it's something that they can repair and put off with windstorm and everything. And we don't even need, we're going to use our regular operating budget to fund that. So we got some really high quotes for the roof, and we can maybe revisit that in another year. So that's that. Okay, so Aquatic Center history. This is a general fund account. The Aquatic Center gets a beating every year. Its close proximity to the saltwater and winds are a maintenance nightmare. We are constantly, that saltwater just on that stuff. Last year we did some major improvements to the slide structure, which y'all have seen, and that was great work done. It's going to last for a good they said that would last for a good 15 years. In the next slide, Gary. But this year we need to work on our slides themselves, gel coating the slides. There's a lot of different options for this. It ranges in price from, we've gotten 3 quotes from 3 different companies to come out, and then there's like A, B, and C we can do. Like we could do just the insides if we wanted to, and the next year come back and do the outsides and different things like that. And there's even one company that's willing to do like a 5-year plan where they do this and we pay them annually, and it would be like $3,500, and then it kind of goes up over the 5 years. So there's a lot of options there, but we really need to do the slides this year so that they can be safe and well maintained, and it'll last for a good amount of time. And then you can go to the next page. Just a little bit of history on our aquatic center. We have the best aquatic center in the Coastal Bend. It's the biggest. It's square footage wise and feature-wise. The Aransas Pass Aquatic Center brings in people daily from as far as 60 miles. The facility is the first thing people kind of associate with Aransas Pass from outside. You know, they're like, oh, the one with the big water park. Yeah. So just, I would really like for y'all to consider investing into that facility from the general fund. So that's all I have.
All right.
Do you have any questions?
Two things.
Yes, ma'am.
You are aware that Portland is building a huge.
I'm very aware.
Okay, when you said we are the biggest, we
Well,
are
we
right
are.
now,
We
but
are.
we're not going
We
to
are.
be.
Well, we're-
And second of all, for a marketing manager, have you looked into a lot of marketing managers will take a lower rate and then they get a percentage of the event, the dollars that it brings in, which would benefit the city a lot more.
Absolutely. We've discussed a lot of different options. I mean, we
Okay.
even have a job description that we've tentatively done. This was prior to COVID.
Good.
And we just kind of were bringing it, but there's a lot of different options. When I
Good.
used to do it way back when, I was commission-based. You know, I had a flat
Yep,
salary and I got a
that's it.
percentage when I did, you know.
Gotta go knocking on doors.
It was
So,
a lot
Cool.
of fun. Anyway, so that's where we are on that.
when do we think the aquatic center will open?
The Aquatic Center, we opened
I thought
we
it
opened 4
wasn't-
days. Yeah, we opened Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
Okay.
Sunday.
I didn't think he
I
had
put it
allowed
in the
them to
council
open yet.
update for Monday that we had done. We're just kind of doing like, this is phase 1. And
Okay.
it was very well received. We didn't have quite as many people because we're doing time slots, but
Okay.
it was good. People liked it. People felt safe. I mean, it was a good feeling all the way around.
Good.
So it was good. And then we'll open up things as safety will allow, but we're not going to have to
Sure.
worry this weekend because the weather's going to be bad.
Stop.
Well, my grass
Stop.
loves it. So does my water bill.
Do you have any questions, Mayor, Council?
No.
No,
Anything
thank
else?
you.
Okay. Thank you all. Y'all have a
Thanks,
good
Sarah.
day.
Chuck, I think you're next.
Next.
Well, golly, I came in 45 minutes before my scheduled time, and I'm late. So I will try to be brief and continue the good work of the staff. Again, this year, I'm looking at 3 areas for the Harbor Department, and I want to remind you, the Harbor Department is more than just the harbor. But first, under appearance, I'm talking about the harbor area, and we're somewhat dependent on Sid and his people to do our mowing for us. I'm asking for $10,000 this year to continue work on the parkette that we planned for last year. Last year you gave me $30,000. We did not begin to spend that much. We have a few things left undone. The plantings of the red yucca and rosemary and sodding in the bare dirt between the park and the waterfront. And then somewhere during the year, we're going to be finished with the road project and the parking lot resurfacing, and we need to restripe it as soon as possible. And we have not done a very good job trying to figure out our striping machine. We've got stripes going every which way, and we've learned enough. We've learned that we don't know how to do it right. So we probably should hire a professional to come in and stripe it for us.
And how much would that cost?
That cost, I'm thinking, is going to run us about $7,000.
And how much money do you have left of the 30 that we gave you last year that you didn't use?
I would have to bow to Sandra's expertise on that, but I think somewhere around $12,000.
Okay.
So the 10,000 that you're asking is for what? I'm sorry? It is
It's
to add to
seven
that
of it,
prediction?
7 of it for restriping.
Okay.
The parking lot, presuming they get it done next year, which I'm sure they will, and $3,000 to cover the cost of purchasing some red yucca and
Okay, so
rosemary
it's a total of
and
the 10
sod.
for those two, okay. All right.
Okay, now
I
that's
thought it was
for-
a 10,000 for something and then 7,000 for something else, okay.
Yes, miss.
But what are you going to use the extra money that from last year on?
That's
Why do you
coming.
need more money this year if you haven't used everything from last year?
Because that money disappeared at the end of the budget season, at the budget time.
It goes back.
Okay, so it goes back into the, okay,
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
You have to use it or
Okay.
lose
Yeah,
it.
use it or lose it, yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
wish we had a pile of it left over. I'll talk to Sandra and Gary about that. The second area is the function of the harbor and harbor park. I have two things in there. The first one is signage. We're still missing a lot of our speed limit signs and don't park on the grass signs and et cetera, that were damaged during the hurricane. Most of the signs themselves I have stored and they're bent. I doubt that they're salvageable, but I have not thrown them away. But I'm looking at $2,500 to $3,500 there to replace the missing signage down at the harbor. And that would include up on Haynes Way and Allen Boulevard as those roads are completed. The other thing that's not in my list here, I didn't have a chance to discuss this with Gary or anybody, but as you are aware, my maintenance man, Juan Tristan, works for me half the time and works for the city half the time, working downtown, cleaning up the main drag down there. I think this morning he's cleaning off a roof over at the library. He gets called on for approximately half the time, maybe not quite. I'd like to move Juan full-time to the harbor department and move the expense of his salary. I don't know what that is exactly, but I'll be working to bring that to you at some point during the year. And I'm doing that because of what I have proposed in Section 3, which is coming up real quick. I'm going to have a greater need for Juan. The third thing that I want to talk about is development. The development of the harbor department. I've realized over this COVID thing that we've got a lot of locals that fish as well as our out-of-towners. I would have presumed 80–85% of our fishing customers were out-of-towners from the San Antonio area, and that's probably not too high. We do have a ton of people, but we've got a lot of local people too. And we've got a lot of local people that go to the park to fish, and they bank fish. They don't have boats. They don't have second homes. They don't have, some of them are out of work. I had to shut a guy down the other night fishing off the pier, which is still closed pending completion of the electrical work. And he was almost in tears. He was catching sand trout, most of them little bitty ones. And I followed him on, he was pretty upset, and I followed him over to the cleaning station to talk to him. He got laid off in February. He was a lieutenant with a security company. His wife doesn't work. She has cancer, and he's got 2 kids at home. And he said, "Chuck, I'm feeding my family on this crap." That ability to go to a park and fish without paying a bunch of money or buying a boat is pretty important to a fairly large number of people in town, many of whom are property owners, all of whom pay some kind of taxes, and many of them, fortunately, are voters. So I want us not to forget that we need to cater to those people a little bit. One of the things I want to do is new park development. Across from Fin and Feather, there's an area that people are pulling off down through the mud and the weeds and fishing off the bank in the Aransas Channel. There is some concrete work there. I think that originally was part of an oil company lease. I think that's been abandoned. It's Nueces County, but it's in our city limits. Looking at that, we've already got a lot of people that go down and fish there. I would love to make that a park. It doesn't have to be a big fancy one with a lot of upfront expenses, but they're using it for a park anyway, so we might as well capitalize on that interest, clean up the trash. It's horrendous down there. Grade the roads out, make it safer for people getting in and out. and add that to our list of parks. Also, and one of the reasons I'm going to have money left over in this year's budget, where possible, I like to use other people's money instead of my own. And we were successful in getting a grant from Lions Club this past year for $48,000 to do most of the work at the park that you had budgeted $30,000 for. We just got another $12,000 from them. And the kayak park, the main entrance goes right into an observation platform, an information kiosk, and then behind it is an observation platform that was destroyed. And the Lions Club grant is going to repair that, rebuild it completely. We got to pull the pilings out of the ground and chunk them and everything there, grade it level and start from scratch. And we will be putting up a 16 by 16 observation platform approximately 4 feet above ground level with an ADA compliant handicap ramp leading from the parking lot up to it.
When is that gonna get started?
When is it gonna
When?
get started? When the rain quits and I can get the city backhoe out there to pull those old pilings.
Okay.
That's subject to Streets Department freeing up a backhoe when they get the sinkholes fixed.
Right.
So we're a week or two away from being ready to start that. The money is in hand.
Oh, wow, that would be great.
Yeah.
What about the
Then
picnic tables?
The picnic tables with the little shelter roofs over them, there are a total of 10 of those. 3 of them are fine. 7 of them were wrecked during the hurricane. Most of them not severely. They're missing a few boards. But I'm asking for a total of $15,000 to completely restore those 10 shelters. And there's a second observation platform at the west end, and that $15,000 will also cover repairing it. It's not that badly damaged. We can bring it all back. There's possible grant monies out there that we're looking at, but I'm asking for it to be in the budget in case we're not successful getting the grant monies. We can go ahead and get it fixed. The north end of the harbor, up past Redfish Willie's and past Captain Katie's bait stand, when you make that turn at the north end, there's an old wood dock stuck out there. Believe it or not, people can launch boats there.
I've seen a major increase
and
in
last
boats
weekend,
being
yeah,
launched there.
with the road project going on and my overflow area completely blocked, people are seeing that nightmare going on at the boat ramps and turning around and going back to the north end to park.
Yep.
We had one Saturday before last, there were like 20 boat trailers parked there.
Saw it, yeah.
And I would like to have, and I'm asking for $6,000 to cover restoring that wood deck, which needs a lot of woodwork replaced. It's old and rotten and kind of curling up, and we nail it down and it pops back up again. But basically, most of that to go for leveling and creating a parking area that we can control instead of having the guys just parking all willy-nilly on both sides of the road and creating a traffic jam.
Is that where we really want a boat ramp, though?
And how's
They're going to use it anyway.
Yeah.
They're going to
Well,
use it
unless
anyway.
it's-
Historically, it's been used. I don't know if you'll ever wean the locals from it.
Right. Well, unless it's just taken out.
How is that gonna affect the new road project? You know, you got the
There is a-
roundabout going on right there, and you have a roundabout, and then all of a sudden a parking lot.
Right. The parking lot is not going to be big, and it's going to be on the water side of the road. And actually, where the road and the roundabout are located is further away. It's further to the north. Where that lift station is at the corner is the lower left-hand edge of the roundabout. So the hill is
Okay.
gonna be utilized for that. It's up there. We'll have more room to this area than we currently have. And last but not least, in a big chunk of money, we talked about it a little bit last year. At the last council meeting, a gentleman who's a regular here asked me, he had looked at the agenda, and he said, "Chuck, what the hell do you need a $700,000 building for?" And the true answer is, I don't.
It's true.
I don't. But half of that building is designed to be offered to the police department for a substation, half of the boat storage area, and half of the office space. I'm anticipating going to Eric so that we can increase our law enforcement presence down at the harbor. And I didn't tell the guy this, but I thought about it. One of those rare occasions I kept my mouth shut. I'm not thinking about next year what I need. I'm trying to think the lifetime expectancy of that metal building is something like 50 years. The one that was destroyed in a hurricane was nearly 40 years old. I'm trying to think ahead. Where are we going to be in 30 or 40 years? Looking at the growth that we're going to have, whether we're ready for it or not. Looking at the development on the harbor, whether we're ready for it or not, it's going to happen. And we need a facility that can serve the community. I don't need, I could get by next year with a trailer down there. For 2.5 years, I've been doing it in a trailer with my wife in the other end of the building, so to speak. But we're trying to look ahead. We're trying to plan ahead. If we don't do it now, we're never going to get it done. A $700,000 building funded 90% by FEMA leaves 10% local. 75% of that's going to be paid by the state. So our actual cost to the community for a $700,000 building is something like 20 grand. You can't not do it when it's available on that at that price.
Yeah.
But to make it functional, again, to go back to the functionality, to make it functional, we need to put a dock in at the bulkhead. That's why I wanted to move it off the hill to the bulkhead, so that we can have a dock, so that we can have lifts, so that when the phone rings at 2 o'clock in the morning, I can go down there and push a button, drop the boat in the water, and be out doing what needs done, not have to go to Public Works and hook a boat up and drive across town and launch it. It takes, if I really hurry, I cannot do that in less than 40 minutes. Police department is a little bit faster because the boat's back here instead of out at Public Works. To make it functional, I need dockage back there. And to do it right, to do it like the city dock with the aluminum floating and everything, and not just a wood dock like we're seeing on the other side of the harbor, it's going to run us probably $80,000. And the good news is, I've opened communications with Parks and Wildlife. There is money available for a grant. I'm exploring how to get the applications and how to fill it out. So we may get a lot of that, if not all of it, from Parks and Wildlife, because they want to put a lift in at our dock and keep their boat there. And of course, Eric's very much in favor of that too. So if we build 4 slips on this short dock, that'll give us 3 in use, one for me, one for PD, one for the Parks and Wildlife. It keeps the 4th one available if the fire department gets a fireboat in the future, or if Coast Guard comes in, needs a place to tie up. So I'm asking for $80,000 to be in the budget for dockage at the new office. Thank you for your time. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate what you've put up with for the last year and what you're going to do in the future.
There we go. Thank you, Chuck.
Can you adjust it again? It's just, my fingers are numb, seriously.
I'm sitting
so
on my
cold.
hands.
My fingers are
My feet are
numb.
frozen.
We're such wimps.
No, it's 60-something degrees in here.
Is that it's hotter down the hall, that's why.
I think
Can
I'm
we
gonna
move
go
this to
sit in
your
the
office?
hall.
It's sitting cooler in here. Well, good morning. I'm the last one. They saved the best for last. I'm with the finance department, as you all know. We're gonna discuss a little bit overview of what we do. You know, what the department does. I oversee the finance department and the utility billing and meter reading. Under the finance, we do the accounting, which is, you know, basically accounts payable, accounts receivable, payroll, paying invoices, bank reconciliation, financials, all of that. All of that stuff that gets paid in the background. We are support for the departments that were just here in front of you today. We are their support. We're the people behind the scenes, paying the bills, making sure the lights are on, making sure that the employees get paid and whatnot. So then we have the utility billing side of things, and they're the ones that are charged with billing our customers, bringing in the revenues, making sure that the bills are correct, helping our customers with customer service, opening new services, closing new services. Then we have the meter readers, which are equally, if not more important, is they go out there and they read the meters once a month, you know, to make sure that we're able to get our bills out on time. They do the disconnects. They install new meters. They get what's called a data logger. If you have a high bill, you know, you call the office and we'll get you a report from your meter saying how much water you used per day, per hour. You know, we can go as far back as 3 months, and they do service calls as well. So our accomplishments in our department, one of the biggest ones that I'm very proud of is the finance department. We met our deadline for the audit of March 31st. That was a big one for us. We've worked very hard and diligently in reconciling all our bank accounts, all our general ledger accounts in a timely manner to be able to meet that deadline. And we have been able to provide financial reports not only to you, the city council, but to the boards, which is the crime control and the MDD board. Not only that, but you can go ahead and go into the finance department website at our city website, our department, and you'll find all that financial information. They're available to anybody that wants to see it. As soon as they're presented to you, a day or two later, we go in there and we make them available to the public for both the city council and the boards. The utility department, I know a big issue in the past was not locking accounts that were vacant. So we've started locking all vacant accounts. That was a big project, a big undertaking on our part. We've had to change some curb stops to make them lockable as well. And the staff has become a little bit more proactive. When we go do the billing, they run a report of a high-low report. Then they'll go in and they'll verify that the read is correct. And we're more proactively trying to call the customer and say, hey, you're gonna get a $1,000, $2,000 bill at your house. Look at it right now, because now we're into the following month billing before, you know, this is maybe approximately about 10 days before the bills go out. So that the customer can go ahead and see, hey, what's my problem at my home? And so we're more proactively trying to do that and getting that done. The needs. We were very fortunate. We got 2 vehicles this year, and we're very grateful for that. What we've learned in this pandemic is that we really need to be able to function from anywhere remotely. And I think if this has taught us anything, is that we need to be able to log on to our computers anywhere in the country, basically anywhere in the world pretty much, and be able to do our jobs from there. We were here during the pandemic, not because we didn't have necessarily somewhat that capability. It's just, but we're trying to migrate our information to what's a cloud-based software kind of a deal. So where all you need is a laptop or a desktop and internet service, and you're on the system. We can take bills, we can send bills, we can pay invoices, do payroll. And it's not only in situations like the pandemic, it's in situations like Harvey. I remember when Harvey hit, I had to go to Corpus to run payroll over there because we didn't have internet or electricity here. So it's those kind of things, it's those kind of events that we need, and paying our staff in those kind of events is really, really important. I know that Fernando was up here talking about wanting to bring staff in at $15 an hour. I've requested some pay adjustments for my staff, not necessarily to that level. I did a quick calculation because I know some of you, the question was, what is $15 an hour across the board going to equal to? More or less, a quick estimate is about $283,000 to bring all staff that's under $15 an hour to $15 an hour. That's what more or less, you know, very quick estimate from when you all spoke with Fernando right now that I was able to calculate. I'm requesting about $27,700. That's the loaded rate for my staff. I'm requesting increasing, you know, the pay for the meter readers for about $1.25 an hour extra. Some of my clerical staff in the front, my payroll clerk and my staff accountant as well, and that totally brings that up to $27,700. We don't need any big equipment at this time. Yes, Jen?
How many meter readers do we have?
We have 4.
And how much are they being paid an hour right now?
It varies from the range of $13 to, I believe, $11.50 or $12 an hour.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm proposing about $1.25 increase across the board for them to try to, it just varies because of their seniority also. Some of them have been here longer, therefore that's why they make the $13. But if you were to increase everybody to the 15, it would be more or less the number of the 283 that I gave you. And that would include, that would be a loaded rate as well. That would include our part of the retirement, our part of the Social Security, our part of the workers' comp,
Right.
and all of that. So that's what it would cost.
Didn't we give your department money last year for bonuses or merit-based bonuses?
We gave a COLA across the board. It was a COLA that everybody got across the board.
So all the meter readers,
Yes.
billing, everybody got that?
Yes,
Okay.
everybody got, all city employees got the
Okay.
COLA.
Okay.
And so the employees, everybody got a COLA last year. Some departments chose to do it more of a merit base. So what we said was, police department, you have $20,000, and how they split that up amongst their staff, that, how they split that baby up, that was their deal. I chose to just do a COLA across the board with my staff, and that's what we did. So everybody got a COLA, but everybody, all the department, all the city staff got a COLA.
Okay.
Okay. And we also got a couple of vehicles this year.
Right.
So we're very happy with that. We were down 2 vehicles and we were able to acquire that. So we really don't need a lot of capital outlay, like another vehicle. We're good for right now. Maybe starting next year we'll look at that again. But I really do want to stress, and I heard Fernando stress that a lot also. We really need to pay our people more. And I know that when they were discussing the building, the planning tech, you're not going to get somebody for $12, and I agree with you. And we invest in our employees. We invest in their training. We mentor them, and we want them to stay. And I really do believe that we need to take care of them, and we really need to look at, you know, increasing that entry-level pay and increasing that pay for them. But I see the flip side of things also. So,
Well, you deal with the dollars, but
Yeah.
you're right. I mean,
yes, so, and we have very hardworking staff across the board.
and we train them and they go off.
They go off somewhere else, yes.
And that costs the city twice as much money to retrain.
Correct.
Every time you do that.
And you get a better pool of applicants.
Yes.
When you have a higher entry
Yep.
level,
Yep.
you're gonna get a better pool of applicants that you can better select from, and so forth. That's my presentation. That pretty much, bless you.
God bless, God bless, God bless.
That's my presentation. I don't know if you all have any questions or comments. Mine was very short and sweet.
Thank
That's
you,
when you
Sandra.
come, you can put all your stars on mine. Where's the line? Oh, right there. All right, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Okay, excuse me. We're now to the sticker time. So all the presentations are finished. We're well ahead of schedule, which I was hoping is good. So just as in previous years, you have 14, I believe, stickers. So if you can take all 14 and put them on your preference, and then we'll prioritize based on what, as far as your choices go, based on what we see. We'll come in and take pictures of this, and then we'll write up a written report also. So it's now up to you, and then it's all over.
Okay, so does Chuck have to leave?
Yes.
Chuck, you have to leave because we don't want any lobbying.
No department heads available.
You're stressing us out.
Loud.
Yeah.
We're getting stressed out.
Okay. All right, let's see what we got.
Go to the little girls first.
Oh, oh, it's up to 71 now.
See if I can walk frozen feet.